Marvel's Wolverine 106 hit store shelves and spinner racks in October of 1996. The same month Lois Lane and Clark Kent were married in the comics and on TV, and the Barry Levinson drama Sleepers was released. This issue focuses on two homecomings. Wolverine and Elektra head to Alberta, Canada to visit Wolverine's old homestead and pay respects to Silverfox's grave. Logan reminisces about his time with Silverfox and his past loves. Later, the duo head to Greece to visit the only remaining family Elektra has left, the gardener Stavros and the waitstaff at the Nachios Villa. Greeting all as family, Elektra and Wolverine are treated to a fine meal while discussing the past. Elektra asks for peace when Stavros informs her that they've avenged all but one of her father's killers. Meanwhile, Wolverine discovers that he and Stavros have a history dating all the way back to World War II. This issue was written by Larry Hama of G.I. Joe fame. Hama sold his first comics work to the fantasy film magazine Castle of Frankenstein when he was just 16 years old. Hama said in a 2006 interview that he was given the job of writing for G.I. Joe after every other Marvel writer had turned it down. Other comics Hama has written include Before the Fantastic Four, Ben Grimm and Logan, The Punisher Warzone, plus some Batman stories for DC. Just this past October, the Harvey Awards announced that Hama was one of the 5 comic creators to be inducted into the Harvey Awards Hall of Fame. This issue was penciled by Val Semeiks, who is best known for his long runs on both The Demon and Lobo for DC. He also worked on non-superhero projects for Mad Magazine, plus video game and toy design. Speaking exclusively to Read the Freaking Comics, Val Semeiks reflects on this issue. Wolverine 106 was the last issue of my little run on the book. It came after Lobo and my switch to Marvel after working with DC. What stands out first is how dynamic the storytelling is. I've always taken pride in my page layouts, and what I strive for is on display here. What happens in the story is very clear. You barely need the dialogue to tell what's going on. The flow is very good. Beyond that, the art on each page is very balanced. The way the panels fit together make for a pleasant-looking whole. The camera cuts between establishing shots, close-ups, and perspectives work well. Issue 106 was quite the change of pace from the bombast of the previous issues. A very introspective story with a nice little mystery thrown in. Wolverine's remembrance of Silverfox was well handled and not maudlin. I love getting a chance to draw all the scenery and set mood. I get tired of cityscapes, and working with the Canadian outdoors and Greece was wonderful fun. I'm a big fan of Hal Foster and Jean Mobius Giraud. They're masters at landscapes. It was special to do a storyline with Elektra too. I would have loved to have drawn more of Wolverine in a non-feral state. Chad Hunt and Ali Milgrom inked this issue. Hunt is a skilled comic book writer whose work has left a mark on both Marvel and DC Comics. Known for his dynamic and precise style, he has contributed to other Marvel titles like Uncanny X-Men and X-Force. Al Milgrom has worked as a writer, penciler, inker, and editor, primarily for Marvel Comics. Milgrom started his comics career in 1972 as an assistant for inker Murphy Anderson. Milgrom came to prominence as a penciler on Captain Marvel from 1975 to 1977. He served an 8-year stint as an inker on X-Factor in 1989 to 1997, and is the co-creator of the DC superhero Firestorm. Milgrom is referenced in Ant-Man as the name of the hotel Scott Lang and his crew stay at. Adam Kubert drew the cover of this issue. The Kubert family has deep roots in the comic industry. Adam is the son of Joe Kubert and brother of Andy Kubert, both comic book artists as well, and the uncle of comics editor Katie Kubert. Adam began his comics career as an occasional letterer for DC Comics in late 1977. His first credited work as a colorist came in 1982 in the Dr. Fate backup feature in The Flash 310. In 2005, Adam and Andy Kubert signed exclusive contracts with DC Comics. His first project was illustrating Last Son, a Superman story arc, co-written by Jeff Johns and Richard Donner. Derek Bellman was the colorist on this issue. Bellman began in the comics industry in the mid-90s, working as a colorist with Malibu Comics on titles such as Ultraverse Premiere, Prototype, and Solitaire. When Malibu was acquired by Marvel Comics, he worked on titles including X-Men and Weapon X. Sadly, Bellman was murdered in September 2003 in what appears to be a robbery. Rounding out the team is Richard Starkings. Richard is a British font designer, comic book letterer, editor, and writer. He's one of the early pioneers of computer-based comic book lettering, and is one of the most prolific creators in the industry. During this period, Bob Harras was the editor-in-chief at Marvel Comics. Having been promoted just a year earlier, Harras' tenure as editor-in-chief occurred during a time when Marvel teetered on bankruptcy. You can watch one of my earlier videos about this here. Later, he moved on to become editor-in-chief at DC from 2010 to 2020. So let's discuss the obvious here. Why does Wolverine look like this? As you may recall in the 90s, Magneto ripped all of the adamantium out of Wolverine's body. Later on, a follower of Apocalypse captures Wolverine and attempts to bond adamantium to his skeleton a second time, with the goal of making him one of Apocalypse's warriors. However, Wolverine's healing factor and willpower reject the process. The ensuing stress leads him to regress into a bestial state. Stick, the former mentor of Daredevil, sends Elektra to retrain Wolverine and to heal his psyche. For a few issues, Wolverine remains in a bestial state in which he is less articulate and shrewd. This is why they are both on a journey of self-discovery in this issue. While a specific location within Alberta, Canada is never mentioned, I did some research of my home country to determine the most likely region in Alberta that would include a view of the Rockies as depicted, wild wolf packs, and where the flowers mountain laurel, sassafras, mint, and juniper could all likely grow wild. Southwestern Alberta seems to be the best location, so I'm estimating Wolverine's cabin is somewhere outside of Lethbridge. Settled in 1874, the city started as a mining town. The nearby Canadian Rocky Mountains contribute to the city's warm summers, mild winters, and windy climate. By the way, none of these flowers look like any mentioned by Wolverine in this issue. The same goes for Elektra's villa. Only described as a Greek island near the Aegean Sea, so I selected Santorini as her home. Santorini, officially named Thera, is a Greek island in the southern Aegean Sea, about 200 kilometers southeast of the mainland. It is the largest island of a small circular archipelago. With its incredible ocean views and mild weather, many wealthy people have built vast homesteads on the island. Logan's past love interests are mentioned in this issue, so let's get into them. When Wolverine was young, his first love interest was Rose O'Hara. She died accidentally in his hands just before Wolverine joined the army. Upon his return, he lived with the Blackfoot and developed a long relationship with Silverfox. She was killed by Sabretooth. While living in Japan, he had a relationship with Mariko Yashida and had a failed engagement to her. She was poisoned, and he was forced to kill her to prevent a long, painful death. He also had a long, unfulfilled, and meme-inducing love for Jean Grey, Scott Summers' wife. He was briefly married to the villain Viper, but later divorced her. There have been on and off again relationships and implied past relationships with Squirrel Girl, Storm, Yukio, Domino, Mystique, and Elektra. Man, Logan really gets around. This issue epitomizes Marvel's style in the later half of the 90s for me. The color palette, the framing, the style are all very distinct for that period of time. Hama's writing elevates what could be a filler issue into an introspective work focusing on two characters not known for their softer, more emotional sides. Wolverine's walk down memory lane and his joy at experiencing the familiar smells from home is a far cry from his ferocious nature, especially during his beast-like period. Elektra's inner thoughts about her possible feelings for Wolverine and her desire for peace also shows a side of her not typically seen. It makes this issue quite a special one for my collection. Mint or near mint versions of this issue are going for as high as $141 according to pricecharting.com. However, I am seeing an issue of unknown quality selling for as low as $3.99 on eBay. October 1996 was an extremely popular period for X-Men and Wolverine, taking up 3 out of the top 5 spots. The other 2 were Spawn titles from Image Comics. Marvel and DC held 66% share of the market that month, while Image and Dark Horse were in the 15% range combined, and no less than 39 other publishers and imprints scrapped it out for the remaining 19%. The comics boom was still strong that month, as the top 300 comics sold equated to about 10.3 million copies. Despite the high volume of sales, the comic bubble burst later in 1996, causing a massive shakeup in the industry. As early as 1995, Marvel Entertainment was already heavily in debt, yet owner Ron Perlman decided to set up Marvel Studios, a venture which he hoped would finally get the company's most famous characters to the big screen. Marvel's shareholders resisted, arguing that the financial damage to Marvel's share prices would be too great. Perlman's response was to file for bankruptcy. Marvel filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy on December 27, 1996. Coincidentally, its highest debt of $1.7 million was owed to Disney. Over 1/3 of Marvel's employees were laid off. We know the Marvel Studios venture finally paid off in 2008, but the 12 years in between were a rough go for the company. The ads in this issue are varied. I see a mix of home entertainment, food ads, and an oddly comic-themed Ziploc ad. The most striking ad is this one for Coca-Cola, featuring street hockey players in the heat of battle. Sega was promoting the Nights into Dreams game for the Sega Saturn gaming system. The story follows the teenagers Elliot Edwards and Claire Sinclair, who enter Nightopia, a dream world where all dreams take place. The game received acclaim for its graphics, gameplay, soundtrack, and atmosphere. It has been cited as one of the greatest video games ever made. There's also this ad for TNBC. TNBC, or Teen NBC, was the name of a former American teen-oriented television programming block that aired on NBC from September 1992 till 2002. PlayStation was also promoting its Bogey Dead 6 and the beloved Crash Bandicoot game. This week, I wanted to promote 2 comic book stores, one for each location on our hero's homecoming quest. The first is Showcase Comics and Hobbies Limited. You can find them at 1271 3rd Avenue South in Lethbridge, Alberta. The second is on the island of Santorini, and while it may not be a traditional comic book store, it does look interesting. While you're vacationing, be sure to check out Atlantis Books EE, located in the Nomikos Conference Center in Firo Stefani, or check out atlantisbooks.org. Thanks for checking out this video. If you want to see more, please hit like and subscribe. If you have suggestions for comics you want me to deep dive into, please leave a comment below. Please help and support real artists. AI is great for a lot of things, but not for creating art and replacing artists. Thank you.